The bottom of the Arctic and the Pacific holds a terrifying secret. Sunken Soviet nuclear submarines, which should be inert, are emitting mysterious rhythmic pulses and heat bursts. What was recorded inside and around these hulls has shown that they are not tuned, but active systems that defy our physics. Today we reveal the connection between the reactor that refuses to die and the lost footage. Subscribe, activate the bell, give it a like, and share this journey into the submarine Cold War. The Cold War was not only fought on the surface, in the chanceries of Washington and Moscow, or in the stars with the space race. Its most vast and secret scenario was the ocean abyss. Beneath the icy waters of the Arctic and the unfathomable depths of the Pacific, the Soviet Union deployed a fleet of nuclear submarines, true giants of titanium and steel, designed to be invisible, fast, and lethal. Many of these colossi, marked by technical failures, accidents, or simple disuse, found their final destiny at the bottom of the sea, becoming sealed and silent tombs. For decades, it was assumed that these wrecks were inert, mere cemeteries of rusted metal, condemned to slow decomposition under crushing pressure. However, submarine exploration expeditions of recent decades, armed with ROV technology, remotely operated vehicle, high-sensitivity sonars, and advanced magnetometers have revealed a disturbing truth. These wrecks are not dead. What scientists have detected and recorded inside and around these sunken Soviet submarines has rewritten not only the naval history of the Cold War, but also our understanding of deep-sea physics and long-term environmental risk. From inexplicable signals to lost footage and mysterious thermal pulses, the ocean floor has revealed that these military relics are still active systems. The premise is clear. The internal findings changed everything, forcing the scientific and naval community to confront the idea that the nuclear dead of the Cold War are still alive, whispering secrets and possibly heading towards a critical destabilization. The first indication that the Soviet wrecks were not static came from the Norwegian Sea, where the K-27 Komsomolets lies. This nuclear attack submarine, considered an engineering marvel for its titanium hull, sank in 1989 after a catastrophic fire. When remotely operated vehicles descended to more than 1,600 meters deep, expecting the monotony of cold water and extreme pressure, their sensors recorded an impossible anomaly, a rhythmic pulse. Scientists in the control room were paralyzed. The sound was not random. It was a constant cadence, almost like the spectral heartbeat of a mechanical heart emanating from the inert hull. At first, equipment failure was suspected, but subsequent ROV analysis revealed an even deeper inconsistency. Some sections of the hull, long considered frozen, emitted a minuscule heat signature at precise intervals, synchronizing eerily with the acoustic pulse. No previous model of submarine degradation under extreme pressure could explain this organized phenomenon. Dr. Elena Bostrikov, a corrosion specialist, suggested that they were witnessing a process previously considered impossible. Theories focused on a complex interaction between seawater, titanium, structural elements, and perhaps traces of unreacted nuclear fuel trapped inside the compartment. It was speculated that the microscopic contractions and expansions of the metal under the stress of pressure and thermal fluctuation, however minimal, were being amplified by an unusual resonance, causing the wreck to vibrate with its own rhythm. The signal persisted, organized and directional, moving through the submarine's bulkheads as if flowing through a hidden network. The Komsomolets wreck was not just a wreck. It was a physical paradox that forced a rewrite of our understanding of how metal behaves in deep-sea tombs, suggesting an interaction of hidden energy that survived decades beyond any calculation. The Komsomolets anomaly was not an isolated event. Continuous explorations in the Arctic, near former Soviet dumping zones, revealed a second alarming truth. The seabed was not a random debris field. Sonar mapping and autonomous underwater drones discovered an intricate series of metallic corridors that twisted and branched with remarkable precision, tracing paths of hulls, propeller shafts, and torpedo casings. Researchers concluded that this was not the work of currents. The Soviets, during the Cold War, had inadvertently created a vast submarine labyrinth by dumping faulty submarines and experimental technology in an organized pattern. perhaps for containment or concealment. This labyrinth had become an active cemetery where the intentionality of Soviet engineering persisted decades after the ice had sealed it. Thousands of miles to the east, in an abandoned naval cemetery near Vladivostok in the Pacific, the mystery manifested acoustically. The ROV recorded brief and subtle bursts of sound, faint, deliberate knocks that disappeared as soon as the devices moved away. Acoustic specialists ruled out sediment settling. The pattern of the sounds was too structured, forming short bursts that seemed almost coded. This acoustic anomaly sometimes synchronized with minor changes in tides or magnetic fluctuation. The most unsettling conclusion of this recording of whispers is that it could be the persistent echo of forgotten technology. It is known that some of these Soviet submarines experimented with early forms of autonomous signal transmission. If the remains of these systems still reacted to environmental stimuli, pressure, salinity, they could be producing electromagnetic pulses or micro cracks in the metal, amplified by water pressure, generating a cryptic and continuous dialogue with the ocean. The seabed not only guarded its secrets, but actively whispered them to anyone who approached closely enough. We are about to reveal the most chilling evidence of the dive, the thermal anomaly of the K-27 reactor. This residual heat pulse is what terrifies scientists, as it means that underwater physics is more volatile than we thought. If you dare to face this truth that challenges all calculation, support our mission. Subscribe now, leave your like, and activate the bell so the algorithm doesn't bury these secrets. The reactor awaits. Perhaps the finding that most terrified the scientific community was the activity detected inside the K-27, another sunken Soviet nuclear submarine. This case represented an environmental security nightmare. Sensors installed around the vessel recorded faint bursts of heat emanating from the reactor compartments, which supposedly should have been cold and frozen long ago. The heat, though minuscule, was persistent and distributed following a pattern that replicated the submarine's internal design, as if flowing through internal channels. The reactor shielding, designed to contain any thermal signature, had failed in its long-term mission. Laboratory simulations indicated that the combination of residual isotopes, saltwater, and aged steel, subjected to high pressure, could generate bursts of energy that defied conventional explanation. The K-27 seemed to harbor a reaction considered impossible, a reactor that refused to die. Marine biologists added another layer of horror. Extremophile organisms, life that thrives in extreme conditions, formed bioluminescent colonies around the heat pockets, accelerating the corrosion of the metal. It was a macabre feedback loop. The reactor's residual energy fueled microbial life, and this microbial life accelerated the hull's disintegration, releasing more radioactive traces in the process. Computer models projecting this activity into the future indicated a critical destabilization in the coming decades. The reactors of these submarines are not static relics. They are active participants in a vast and dynamic underwater system, capable of producing unpredictable and catastrophic consequences. The K-27 anomaly posed a global security dilemma. How many other sunken reactors are entering a state of instability, waiting for the exact moment to release their contents? The final blow to the official narrative of the Cold War came from one of the most improbable recordings: the recovery of analog tapes in a naval archive in St. Petersburg. These spools, marked with classified notations, contained footage captured inside a Soviet submarine moments before it sank. The existence of these tapes suggested that Soviet engineers had deliberately over-engineered cameras to record the final moments of critical missions for technical review, even knowing that the equipment would not be recovered. The footage showed the submarine's interior with astonishing clarity, despite decades underwater. What most impacted historians was the crew's behavior. They moved with a calm, professional deliberation, performing procedures that hinted at a silent but controlled urgency. There was no panic or frantic chaos, which contradicted official reports that often implied panic as the cause of certain disasters. But the tapes also captured the most subtle and unsettling recordings. Certain frames showed faint glows from supposedly inactive machinery, and controls slightly displaced between 1 second and the next, as if they had responded to internal forces beyond human intervention. Analysts suggested that pressure, salinity, and microchemical reactions could have induced small movements in the ship's complex mechanical system, a kind of coded memory in movement and vibration. This footage not only rewrote the ship's final operational minutes, but confirmed that Soviet technology, even at its worst, remained an enigma, capable of harboring a residual activity that defied all assumption. What was recorded and detected inside the Soviet submarines changed everything, but not in the sense of a science fiction conspiracy. The change was deeper and more terrifying. It altered our perception of risk. The internal finding, the Komsomolets pulse, the K-27 reactor activity, the organized debris network, and the silent footage confirmed that the sunken ships of the Cold War are not passive relics, but dynamic, active systems. The most critical consequence of this revelation is not naval history, but environmental safety. The possibility that nuclear reactors, despite their shielding, can generate heat pulses that accelerate corrosion and fuel extreme micro-ecosystems necessitates the urgent re-evaluation of international policies on nuclear technology disposal. The ocean floor, the stage of the Cold War, has become a silent countdown, where the engineering failures of the 20th century become unpredictable threats to the future. The final recording of these abysses is not a message, but a warning of human vulnerability to geological and biological forces. The mystery of the interior of the Soviet submarines is ultimately a reminder that the Earth remains a planet of darkness and pressure, and that the objects we deposit in its bosom, even in the immensity of the ocean, retain an energetic memory that refuses to remain silent. The terror is not a monster. It is the residual activity of a reactor that could destabilize. The anomaly of these submarines forces us to rewrite history and confront latent environmental risks. The Cold War is still alive at the bottom of the ocean. Do you think the naval powers are hiding more active cemetery? Leave your theory in the comment. If this revelation has impacted you, support us with your like, share the video, and subscribe for more secret